Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video. I have another blade from the Kizer Vanguard series today. This is the Kizer Kane. Now, I gotta tell you guys, this is a knife that I've been kind of watching with a pretty high level of interest since it first came out. I want to say maybe Epic Snuggle Bunny had a video of it before it was even released as a production knife. And that was, when it first came out, it was a titanium frame lock with S35VN steel, like a lot of Kizers. They've since released it in the Vanguard series, and that's when I picked it up. There are a couple of things that put me off the Thai version, most especially the curved blade tang lock interface, and I'm not a big fan of that, and most companies have moved away from it. But anyway, that's for another discussion. For now, what I will say is I really like Mat Degnan's designs, both the Roach, which I have here, and the Kane, and I've got to say that I've been very impressed with the quality and the fit and finish and functionality of the Kizer Vanguard stuff. And I've done a bit of research, and everyone seems to be saying the same stuff. Like, these are really well put together knives. So maybe this isn't the knife that really gets you excited, but there's another Vanguard series knife that you're more drawn to, the Intrepid or something else. And I think, from my experience and from what I've been able to read and hear about, they seem to be doing a really good job. So whatever design is most attractive to you, I don't think you do wrong in picking one up. This knife in particular, though, I do really like. I tend to, I've really liked both of Mat Degnan's Kizer collabs. And so when this one came out in the Vanguard series, I picked it up pretty much right away. And so I've had a fair bit of time to use this and kind of build my impressions of it. And I have been very impressed with this knife as well. And I'll speak to some of the specifics as we go through. But let's start off, as we always do, with size and weight. So overall, this is 8.5 inches. Now, it's a little bit actually less than that, about a 1/16 of an inch, okay? Blade length is 3.5. Handle length is 4 7/8, and it's a little over 1/2 inch thick. Now, all of that weighs in, okay, at 6.8 ounces, which is fairly hefty. Although all of those numbers are smaller than the original. The Thai frame lock version of this is 9.25 inches and about 8 ounces. So this is, shrunken down just a little, okay? I have no problem with the size. You guys know I like big knives, and so yeah, maybe that 9 inches does sound appealing to me, but this is just fine. Let's see here. Oh yeah, let me say this about carrying this knife, and I've carried it quite a bit. I really enjoy carrying it. Even at 6.8 ounces, to me, really, anything, I carry a 0-200 sometimes and have no problem with it. So really, if it's around 7 ounces and under, start getting around 8, 9, 10 ounces, that gets uncomfortable and probably too heavy for me to carry. I'm sure there's some people, though, that carry knives of that weight and don't, it doesn't bother them. Anyway, I find this comfortable, right? I don't find the weight to be too much, even though I will say it's probably a little hefty for the size at 8.5 inches. Let's see, where do we want to go next with the blade? Now, we're going to do some comparisons, but I'm going to do that later for a couple of reasons. One, I want to speak to something about liner locks, and then at the end we'll throw in a few more comparisons for knives that you may like that are similar to this one in size and construction and stuff like that. All right, so let's start off with the blade, and we'll zoom in for this portion. Come on. All right, so there is a close-up version of that Kizer Kane. I think you can see it's a pretty attractive knife. You got the Kizer symbol on that side, and on the other side you have Kane and Mat Degnan under it. You can see the stainless steel bolster there. And it is, yeah, see how the light rolls there? You can see it's a hollow ground knife, and it's a very thin hollow grind. And you guys know how I feel about that. I really like those thinly ground, hollow ground blades because they slice so well. And, basically 95% of what you're going to do with a knife is going to involve slicing. You're going to want that nice thin edge geometry that you're getting on this. All right, it's a harpoon shaped blade, so you can see there's the cutout there, and actually that works really, really well when you choke up with the choil here. It's just like your hand was meant to go there. It does have that nice swedge on top, which looks really, really good. And it's VG10 steel. So let's talk just a little about VG10. It's a very, very stainless steel. reasonably good edge retention. It's going to be better than, say, 14C28N, maybe around the level of 154 cm. So essentially it's a good mid-grade steel. Okay, certainly nothing to complain about, and at the price point on this, totally appropriate. Okay, very happy with the steel and happy with the performance of the steel. It seems like Kizer has done a good job with it. As you know, not only does it matter what particular steel you use, but if you put a good or bad heat treat on it, if you finish it well, you know, it's going to perform well. And this one really does. And that's going to be sort of a combination of things, right? It's the steel, it's the edge geometry, it's the heat treat, and all those things seem to have come together really well on this particular blade. All right, so moving on to lockup and deployment. This is a liner lock, and let's see, you should probably be able to see there. Maybe it's easier to show you from the back. Right there. Let's see if I can get a bit of light catching in there. And there you go. You can see that it is milled out. Now, not as heavily as it maybe could be, and that probably contributes to the weight, as well as, of course, these stainless steel bolsters are going to contribute to the weight. But notice the liner is nice and thick, and notice that there's no relief cut. Okay, I would say most liner locks do not need a relief cut, and to me will be stronger without it. Okay, it just makes more sense to me to leave the relief cut out. It is on bearings. Okay, so the bearings, they're not, I think the Thai version is ceramic bearings. These won't be ceramic, but they do perform really well. Really great flipper. In fact, I had commented, if you remember, that the Roach was an excellent flipper, and this flips even better than that. Not smoother, but it does flip faster. Just the geometry of the flipper to the pivot is in a slightly better position to give you a little more leverage there, so it flips out really quickly. Now, let me show you what I mean by the liner. I've got a few examples of it. Notice here where the liner bends over, there's no relief cut. Same with the Roach, no relief cut. Same with the Rat 1. Okay, so that's something I really like to see, especially in, you know, and there are a few liner locks where the relief cut seems to have left almost no steel behind, and I feel like, why? You know, it's not like you've got a huge massive hunk of steel that no one's going to be able to bend. It's totally fine. So you could just leave it alone, and in fact that's one less machining process to do, right? So I prefer liner locks that don't have a relief cut, and so yeah, I've been very happy with that, and with the action on this as well, really good. Okay, let me give you just one example of this beside the Roach. So I'm going to do sort of a light switch, and you can see that comes out really quickly. Now the Roach still comes out nicely, but it's just a little bit slower. Okay, so lockup and deployment, very good. I have really impressed. It's solid as a rock in all directions. Okay, so that's again a function of the way that the quality that Kizer is putting into these blades. So that's lockup and deployment. What about the handle? Well, the handle is it's good, not amazing. Okay, I'm only so excited about the bolster. I think it looks, you know, this looks wise, it's fine. It is a little slick, and here's one of the problems I have with it. If you're going to carry this knife all the time, that bolster with a satin finish on it is going to get worn out, right? It's going to get marks and lines and scrapes and scratches on it. It would have been nicer to see maybe a stonewash finish on this, and that is something you could do after the fact, right? So, I mean, it's fine, but I'm not super excited about it. In terms of comfort, the handle is really comfortable, and that's, again, pretty typical. When you get 3D Machine G10, you're going to find, generally speaking, that it's quite comfortable. I love that finger choil and the possibility of choking up, and I do this a lot. You know, fine cutting tasks, you're opening packages or something like that. You know, cutting the eyes out of potatoes or working on a piece of meat. This is a really handy way to be able to choke up on a knife, and I think I mentioned that I'm sort of drawn to knives that have that choil and allow me to get right up on the blade. So I do really like that. This sort of cutout here is so-so, right? Both of my fingers don't fit quite right in it. One finger pushes you way back on the handle and makes me hold the knife in a kind of a weird way. So it's, I don't know, this is not ideal. When I'm using the knife, I'm not complaining about it or not finding a hot spot there, but it's just not perfect, okay? So very comfortable, not perfect, but otherwise really, really well put together. It is Torx construction, which is fairly typical. There is no lanyard hole, but there's plenty of room here. This last standoff could easily take a lanyard, and it's not close to the blade at all, so you could easily put a lanyard around there and not be worried about cutting it. And the clip is really, really well done. It's just a typical spring clip, but it goes in and out of pocket easily with one hand, which is basically just what you're looking for. You probably could move it up, right, and have a little less blade coming out of the pocket. You can maybe move this a 1/4 of an inch higher or so, but you know, it's not the end of the world. By the way, it is reversible as well. So let's pull in some other knives for comparison purposes. So there's that Kizer Kane at 8.5 inches. Here is a Rat 1. Now this is the D2 Rat 1, so the steel's a little better on this. This is the carbon fiber version. You can see for size comparison as well, I think this is a very competitive option. And right now, when these are available, I think they're only available at KnifeWorks, but great price on these Rat Model 1s. All right, obviously it's not as compelling as of a design. This is a much more interesting knife as far as I'm concerned, but in terms of functionality, very, very competitive. Another sort of budget offering that does come out at a bit better price than the Kizer Vanguard knives is the Real Steel. This is the H6. It's a liner lock as well. Notice, by the way, this liner lock has no relief cut, which is good. And again, they're both very interesting knives. The steel on this one's going to be a little bit better. But again, oh, by the way, no bearings on either one of those last two knives I showed you. So those are a couple. Another Vanguard series knife, the Roach. This knife, of course, is really cool and really interesting. I love the ergonomics on it. I love the design of this knife, even more than this one. But both of them are very well put together and would serve anyone really well for a good EDC. Let's pull in one last comparison, mostly because of the blade shape similarity. This is, of course, the SOG Trident Elite. It's a teeny bit bigger, but not a whole lot. It also, though, has that hollow grind and a clip point. And although I know this is a harpoon, it's kind of a clip point. Okay, so hollow grind again. A bit of a recurve on this one. Again, though, this shows the value of this. This knife and this knife cost very close to the same amount of money. This is not nearly the quality of knife that this is. So, there you go, guys. My overall impressions on this are exceptionally good, if you haven't figured that out by now. It's well built, it's comfortable in hand, it's easy to carry. The blade is really, really cool looking and also really, really functional. So, you know, yeah, there were a couple little points of detraction that I made along the way, but overall, very, very impressive blade. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.